Now, our TED theme is turning points. And what I would suggest to you is that we arrive at a turning point where we give up on the idea that speaking English as a foreign language or the foreign language, and we turn towards and embrace the idea that in the modern world, we really need to speak more than one foreign language, that we speak perhaps several different languages. Now, I came to that turning point myself many, many years ago, like most things in my life, many, many years ago. When I was in my 20s, I lived in France. And then when I was 30, I came to Turkey. So I've spent a great deal of my so-called adult life in multilingual contexts, if you like. When I went to France, I lived in a small town where I was the only foreigner. Well, I was the only Scottish or English-speaking foreigner, apparently, because in all the years I was there, I never met another British or American person. They were probably avoiding me because of my accent or something. But I really wanted to speak to the people I knew, the friends that I made, the people I worked with, and none of them really spoke English very much, or they pretended they didn't. And so I was kind of obliged to learn French. And then I went back to Scotland. I studied foreign languages, modern languages at university, and then I came to Turkey. And although Turkish people seem to be much more confident speakers of English and much more willing speakers of English than French people, I still wanted to learn Turkish. And I had, in fact, studied Turkish for a year as my other language when I was at university in my final year. So what I found was that I was very, very motivated to learn foreign languages by the people around me. I had been kind of a failure in school because I didn't, for example, in French, I didn't really want to talk about what the Dupont family were doing in the garden next door. However, I did want to talk to people about movies and places to go for food and things like that. So, being bilingual and now multilingual was a natural thing for me. I have to say that this motivation is not equal for everyone, and that you can go to countries and meet people who have been living there for many years, 4, 5, 10 years, and they can't read a newspaper in the language of the country where they're living. So for some people, the social aspect is not quite as motivational as it should be. One of the fantastic things about learning language from people who speak it is that you realize that human beings are understanding machines. That everywhere you go, people who you speak to, they will do anything, virtually anything, to help you to make yourself understood. They will complete your sentences for you, give you a wide variety of possible meanings of the words that you're trying to find. They'll act things out. They'll virtually dance for you. That is really the vast majority of people. There are some people who won't help you. I mean, they might be racist, or they might be idiots, they might just be creepy, or they might just be having a hard time when you're talking to them. Or they might be language teachers. The tragedy of being a language teacher is that you have to pretend that you don't understand. So, for example, someone says, so, tell me about your family. My sister is primary school teacher, and my brother works in Dubai. Sorry, could you say that again? Your sister is primary school teacher? Yes, she teaches primary 1 to 3. No, I didn't understand. Your sister is primary school teacher. Yes, and your brother work in Dubai. I didn't understand. Your brother work in Dubai? What does that mean? I am an only child, okay? So, obviously, speaking foreign language is very useful, socially, etc. But we are kind of perhaps deluding ourselves if we think that we're really special because we speak English. and nothing else apart from our own language. How many people here are actually bilinguals? Yeah, everybody, I suppose. Okay, or you're wondering, who is this guy? And what are all these noises coming out of his face? Right, so it's nice to be with a lot of bilinguals. But being bilingual, unfortunately, isn't really that special. Heartbreaking, isn't it? About half of the world's population will speak 2 or 3 different foreign languages in any given day. Okay? They will have, if you take, for example, huge regions like Africa, Asia, Central and South America, people might speak 5 different languages in one day. They'll have their local language, their regional language, one of the state official languages, and then perhaps a language of wider communication. So, for example, all of the Indian people or Bangladeshi people who speak to each other in English as a kind of lingua franca. And so this is a hugely complex linguistic world. Speaking one language or one foreign language is perhaps not enough. So again, put the idea of only speaking English into a bit of perspective. About 750 million people already speak English as a foreign language. They've studied it at school, they've studied it at university, they've learned it in order to offer special student price in the Kapalua Charsha, the covered bazaar, etc. And there are about 375 million people who speak English as a second language, by which I mean it's the language that they live their educational or their social or their professional lives in. Now, those 375 million people who speak it probably better than I am speaking it just now, that's more people in the world than speak English as their mother tongue. So there's over 1 billion people out there who speak English very well already, which means that it's not actually that special. It's kind of normal. Although speaking English with Turkish or with Arabic or with Spanish or with Bulgarian or with Greek or with 3 or 4 of those, that is incredibly special. And I think that's something that perhaps we could try to aim for. Okay. So before I go into the wonders of being trilingual or quadrilingual, I'd just like to say something about what it means to be bilingual. What do you think? What do you think it means? To be bilingual, what do you have to be able to do? Any ideas? Yes, Bartu. To be able to express yourself in 2 languages. Anyone else? Yes.
Understand the cultures as well.
Sorry?
Understand the cultures as well.
Understanding the cultures. Yes, definitely. That's definitely part of it. You were going to say?
Dream in the language that you're actually.
To dream in the language that you're learning. That has happened to me. First time ever was in Lille in the north of France, and I dreamt I was having a conversation in French with Bob Dylan. So it might not actually help that much. Okay, so yes, you might dream in the language. Most people have an idea that being a bilingual means that you can do everything in the second language that you can do in your own language. You can write poetry in it. You can write incredibly convincing political speeches. You can understand the instructions for a washing machine. You can order food in a restaurant. You can make really lousy excuses to a group of children about why you forgot to bring the batteries for the toys. All of those things. But in fact, if you can say anything realistic, useful in a foreign language, you are bilingual. You might not be a particularly expert bilingual, but if in Turkish, for example, when someone sneezes and you can say çok yaşa, okay, or ateşwe or gesundheit, you are already bilingual. Okay? You may walk around throwing pepper in the air to make people sneeze, to give you an excuse to use your bilingual abilities, but you are already bilingual. But there are effectively, there are two elements to being bilingual. The first one is knowledge of the language. You need to know how to pronounce it. You need to know how to read it. You need to know the rules of grammar, the vocabulary, etc. So that's language knowledge. You need to know how to talk to a grandmother and how to talk to a grandchild. You need to know all of these different aspects, really. So that's a kind of knowledge of the language. And the second one is the frequency that we use the language, the frequency that we use it for a real purpose. Now, the real purpose could mean reading to study or having conversations, asking for directions, giving directions, and things like that. The problem is, now, as I mentioned before, human beings are understanding machines. We will do virtually anything to understand or to help someone to make themselves understood. Another tragic aspect of being a human being is that our brain is a beautifully organized forgetting machine. Your brain will forget virtually anything, deliberately. And if you don't use a language, you will lose it. First of all, you will lose vocabulary, then you will lose grammar, then you will lose pronunciation in that kind of order. And so we need to be able to use the language in order to keep it alive. Use it or lose it. Okay? So that's being a bilingual. It already sounds fairly complicated, knowing another language on top of our first language. But now I'm actually going to go on to the benefits of trilingualism, speaking a third, or even quadrilingualism, or plurilingualism. Difficult words to translate when you've got a cold. Okay, so the benefits of speaking more than one language. The first one I thought I would mention is becoming more and more important for me, which is that it has definite effects on our brain health. What's that disease called again? Acting. Alzheimer's. Bilinguals or multilinguals develop, if they're going to develop Alzheimer's, develop it about 5 or 6 years later than monolinguals. Now, the world of neurolinguistics doesn't really explain this, and neither does the world of the science of the brain. But basically, people who speak more than one language, they are protected against the effects of Alzheimer's for 5 or 6 years. I'll be learning Chinese starting tomorrow. I'll be learning Chinese starting tomorrow. Okay. Other advantages are, of course, cultural. You can read novels that haven't been translated into your own language. Or in my case, you can buy those novels and look forward to eventually reading them. You can understand poetry and songs. You can read the newspapers. You can listen to opera. There are so many different cultural advantages, which are all fairly obvious. Another advantage is in the world of work. Bilinguals, trilinguals, multilinguals generally earn more than monolinguals. Now, this may just be a coincidence because of their educational background, or it might actually be because being more sociable with people through being able to speak to more people because of these many different languages, that they are more confident and they tend to rise through organizations because they have better people skills. Okay, right. But now I'm going to move on to, gladly, the actual multilingualism specific benefits. Okay, so there are some quite surprising ones. The first one is kind of obvious, is that when you're learning your third language, you're much better than someone who's learning their second language. Why? Oh, because you already know all the tricks of the trade. You know how to use a dictionary. You know how to work out what someone is trying to say. You know that participating in lessons or participating in real life helps you to learn much more quickly, much more effectively than doing thousands of pages of tests. Sorry to give you that bad news. Another thing is that we are, as third language learners, we are much more language aware. We already know the kind of mistakes that people make when they're learning languages, when they're trying to use a language. We already know that repeating something which is wrong just makes us sound repetitive. It doesn't make the person we're speaking to understand better. Something slightly more surprising is that if you learn a third language, it will help you to speak your second language better. So, is anyone here studying French or Spanish or German? Surprisingly, by studying those languages, your English will get better because there's a transfer of these new understandings about the third language onto the second language. A good German learner will become a better English learner. And incredibly, you will also become a better Turkish speaker because the language awareness passes through all of our languages. That as we speak, let's say, Spanish better, it improves our English, but it also improves whatever our native language is. So for most of you, Turkish. And finally, something which is rather strange, and this is really perhaps not so true for Turkey as it would be for people living in France or Britain or the United States. When people are part of an ethnic minority or an immigrant group, when they learn another language, they feel better about their own language, their first language. So people, let's say, from Central America living in the United States, when they learn another language on top of English, they become more confident about speaking Spanish at home because the idea that there is only one official state-dominant language, English, which they must learn, is kind of watered down by the fact that they do know another language. And this other language makes them feel less guilty about speaking, let's say, for example, Spanish or Arabic, if they're in France, speaking Arabic in public. So people become more sure about their own cultural identity and more confident speakers of their own language. So all in all, I think we can say that there are massive advantages to speaking more than one language, and that for those of you who are enjoying or even just studying a second foreign language because you have to, I would definitely recommend that you stick at it. Use it. Don't lose it. The benefits will far, far, far outlast the difficulties of any exams that you have to take in the near future. Thank you very much.